Warning, this video contains spoilers for both Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Batman Arkham Knight, and Marvel's Avengers. Now if you're interested in the story for either of these titles, I recommend playing them first before continuing with this video. Well, Rocksteady have wrapped up officially with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, a game that, well, I got a few videos of it on the channel, but anyways, spoiler alert for Suicide Squad's story in its DLC, but the Justice League members that we kill in the main story were all clones, so we go about saving the real League. So the real Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and Flash didn't die, but Wonder Woman, yeah, she's actually dead.
Told you so.
You fucking didn't.
But so many of you seem to be enjoying or have enjoyed my Suicide Squad or Gotham Knights video, asking which one was better. And I've been playing a fair bit of Marvel Rivals recently, and with Suicide Squad wrapping up, I thought I'd take a look at which failed live service game was better. DC's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, or Marvel's Avengers, a game that released a few years before Suicide Squad and had nearly the exact same problems, and now is no longer available for purchase on online stores. So, yeah.
That's not going to be good for business.
But as I mentioned, I've been playing Marvel Rivals, and Avengers is still in my library on Steam, so I decided to boot it up and test out a bit of Avengers just for some shits and giggles. And well, I thought I'd ask which one was better.
Here are two pictures. One is your locker, the other is a garbage dump in the Philippines. Can you tell which is which?
Now, just like in my previous video, I will be breaking this down into multiple categories to answer which one is better. And I'll be looking at story, gameplay, world, graphics, characters, and shelf life, and which game I think is better. Just quickly before I sort of get into the video, if you do enjoy the content that's made on this channel, if you could consider hitting the subscribe button, that'd be rad, because my goal this year is to hit 10,000 subs, and I wouldn't be able to keep creating this content if it wasn't for people like you. So thank you and hope you enjoy. Now, I'll be going into spoilers as I mentioned at the start of this video for both of these games, so you've been warned, but let's kick off with a little bit of history for both. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I'll just call Suicide Squad from here on out, is developed by Rocksteady, the same studio that gave us the brilliant Arkham trilogy of games with Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight, and it released in 2024, where instead of playing as Batman, or members of the Bat family, or, you know, the Justice League, we play as the Suicide Squad, who are hired by Amanda Waller to hunt down and, quote, kill the Justice League, as they've been captured and compromised by Brainiac. On the flip side, Marvel's Avengers released 4 years earlier in 2020 during lockdowns and was developed by Crystal Dynamics, the studio behind the recent Tomb Raider games, and Eidos Montreal, who did a absolutely fucking brilliant game in Guardians of the Galaxy, which if you have not played that, check it out because it is wicked.
Part of Green Team.
You assigned me to the team before you named it. My skin is not green, it's teal.
Teal? But returning to Avengers, well, the Avengers host an event on their helicarrier in San Francisco, and after an attack by Taskmaster, the helicarrier explodes, killing innocents, and subsequently killing Captain America. Now from this, the Avengers disband, a new threat emerges, and the Avengers need to reassemble. Now, it comes as no surprise, but both of these games weren't overly well received by the general audience. Now that's not to say they're both completely awful games, as both of them have some pretty cool mechanics and things here and there, but they do both suffer from the same problem in some instances. But now let's kick off into the first category, story. Let's start off with The Avengers, the older of the two games, seeing as that it is now a 5-year-old game, but the overall story for Avengers and its main campaign is a single-player experience for its majority, where a young Kamala Khan is invited to a Avengers experience called Avengers Day, where the team unveil their second headquarters in San Francisco on a helicarrier. The opening, say 20 minutes or so, act as world building, character introductions to us controlling a young Kamala Khan as she meets each member of the Avengers. Now, there is an attack on the Golden Gate Bridge, which causes the Avengers to stop their celebrations and to take out this terrorist group led by Taskmaster. And 80% of the Avengers go off to the Golden Gate Bridge to stop the attack, and Captain America stays behind. However, this new helicarrier has a new energy source called a Terrigen crystal, and this core overloads, explodes, and Captain America is a casualty in this. Now, if you know anything about the comics, but during the evacuation on Avengers Day, which is referred to as A-Day in this game, Terrigen mist gets out, Kamala gets a smack straight into her face of it, giving her and many others superpowers, becoming Inhumans. Now, the media and the government blame the Avengers for the events on A-Day, causing them to disband, which is where our main villain, Advanced Idea Mechanics, also known as AIM, comes in to clean up the mess, if you will.
Pretty standard, really.
5 years after the events of A-Day, Kamala finds video footage that shows a scientist on the helicarrier causing Captain America's death. AIM finds out about this and sends AIMbots to bring her in. And AIM here, as well as AIMbots and Inhumans, sort of like a hard ripped off, if you will, from Sentinels and Mutants in the X-Men series, with AIMbots hunting down and imprisoning Inhumans. Now, as you progress in the story, you as Kamala start to meet and unlock and play as the Avengers from Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Black Widow, and yes, of course, Captain America. Because, as the story goes, Captain America didn't die, which was a real surprise to no one, and you set out to stop AIM and the big bad in the main campaign in MODOK.
Makes sense.
The main campaign, or the base game story if you will, is a single player only experience where the DLC that comes in later, which I'll talk about, can be played with 4 other players. But the main story for Avengers is actually not bad. Now, it's got some on-rail moments that feel like they've been pulled from the Tomb Raider series, where you'll be running across rooftops in a linear fashion or flying through the Earth's atmosphere. But the story of the Avengers, who have then disbanded and then start to have some issues with one another, is actually pretty cool. And as the game is its own standalone universe, you don't need to worry or know about previous events from other games. If you've seen the Avengers movies or you've read some comics, you know who Thor, Iron Man, Hulk and the crew are. And on top of this, you generally know their abilities and strengths to the team, and that sort of works into its role with gameplay. Now, the opening 20 minutes or so where you play as, say, like a 11-year-old Kamala Khan roaming around during the celebrations of A-Day is pretty damn cool, because we're seeing her heroes, the Avengers, through her eyes. And I won't lie, some of the voice acting and portrayals of the characters here are spot on. Thor being a bit alien as to what's going on, Iron Man being a show-off, and Captain America just being fucking awesome. But the story here in Avengers, the core main story as it is single player, does act as a little bit of a tutorial, if you will, to how each character works. So when you get the story DLC or the multiplayer, you'll have an idea of what hero you prefer to play as, and when the credits roll on the main campaign and the final boss or act is done in the single player story, the Avengers have reassembled with some special armor and designs thanks to Tony Stark.
Not bad, not bad. Now you.
Suicide Squad story, well, it does what it says on the tin. It is set in the Arkham universe, where we've had a wicked time playing as Batman in Gotham. But this time, we're instead playing as the infamous Suicide Squad, who were brought together, if you will, by Amanda Waller in Arkham Asylum to get into Metropolis, which has gone dark. And, well, we find out that Brainiac has attacked, closed off the city, captured civilians, there's alien goons roaming the street, and the Justice League have been, quote, taken over by Brainiac, and we as a squad have to take them down. The story, I will say, starts off pretty strong, where we break into the Hall of Justice, which is scattered full of Easter eggs, and it kind of has the same theme or vibing, if you will, as the Avengers, as the Hall of Justice was having an open day for kids and families that could attend and walk through the hall, a bit like a museum-style setup. But as the squad has already arrived after the events of Brainiac, it's a bit eerily haunting. Now, we're playing as villains. Each member of the squad has some kind of connection, if you will, to each hero. Harley Quinn obviously being tied to Batman with the Joker. Captain Boomerang being a Flash villain obviously has some guff with the Flash. King Shark kind of idolizes and loves Superman in a comedic way. And for some reason, Deadshot, who has been in Arkham City prior to this, but apparently that wasn't the real Deadshot, he for some reason is linked to the Green Lantern.
Uh-oh. Something's wrong.
Now, the opening couple of missions are single player, but you can then tackle the rest of the campaign co-op with friends. And that's how I first played through the story of Suicide Squad, with friends. And like Arkham City and Night before it, Suicide Squad is an open world sandbox game set in Metropolis. And a open world superhero game, that's kind of the only way to do it, and I'll come back to that later. But as we progress in the story, we learn that Wonder Woman is the only member of the League that hasn't been captured by Brainiac, and Wonder Woman confirms that the only way to save the League and the world is to kill them.
You have to kill us, Diana. We have to die to save the world.
Why must you turn my office into a house of lies?
And with the help of Lex Luthor and some other multiverse elements in its stories, we find a way to track down and kill each member of the League, with the final boss being Brainiac. Now, there are other videos on my channel that you can watch about what I found wrong with Suicide Squad's story, but the gadgets, MacGuffins, and the way we take down members of the League make no sense at all. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, we aren't facing off against the real Justice League members but clones, which is a story plot point that was found by data miners, but the core story, the main campaign, there are no hints, references, Easter eggs, or nothing to clue the player in that you're not facing off against the real League. Nothing in this game tells you that these are clones. But story-wise, as we progress, we take on each member of the League, which works as a great next act moment, if you will, for the story. What I mean by that is, defeat the Flash, well then the next one is the Green Lantern, and you'll need to learn what he's weak against and what gadget is required. Now the voice acting and some character interactions and moments are pretty damn funny, I will say. Deadshot takes things too seriously, King Shark is basically Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn, but by far the dialogue and interactions from Captain Boomerang are a standout here. There are also moments in the story where things feel like a serious superhero movie with an imposing villain and some great scenery, if you will, or for Boomerang to drop a great one-liner or sort of find a way to bring his lightheartedness that the Suicide Squad brings to these scenes.
Oh, you shouldn't have done that, Shark. That's Superman. He'll kick your ass.
Now the voice acting from supporting characters and the Justice League is also super impressive, of course with the standout role being the late, great Kevin Conroy, the greatest Batman in all of history.
I am vengeance. I am the Knight. I am Batman.
And Kevin as well voicing Batman here, but it's sort of a evil, darker version of him. But when the last boss fight is done though, we learn that there are multiple Brainiacs that need to be taken down in order to save Metropolis, and rather than having a traditional ending to its campaign, we need to then basically wait, or when this game released initially, we as the players needed to wait for content drops and DLC to come out so we could keep going with the main story and stop these Brainiacs, and that's where Suicide Squad's story just sort of keeps going. But if you ask me though, which one had the better core story or standalone story, it is a no-brainer that it's Marvel's Avengers. As the main campaign for Avengers is single player only, it is more fluid and it's more structured. It's got more great heroic moments, but there are simple scenes of heroes just being heroes and talking to kids, and the story ends with the Avengers reassembling with their helicarrier back in the sky, and the story DLC and its multiplayer takes place after these events and work as additional separate stories.
Then everything is wrapped up in a neat little package!
Now that's not to say Avengers wins because Suicide Squad doesn't have heroes, seeing as you play as the villains, but Suicide Squad's story didn't actually end with its main initial release. It sort of just ends on a cliffhanger that falls very, very short and kinda disappointingly. If you finish the main story, when this game released, you were basically told, wait for the next DLC to drop in a month or so's time with the Joker, who, the Joker in this universe, was voiced and portrayed by Mark Hamill, who of course was and is the greatest Joker of all time alongside Kevin Conroy, and we get another Joker that comes in the DLC, and that's a conversation for a little bit later. Well now, both of these games are 4-player co-op outside of sort of Avengers core single-player story, but they have nearly identical gear systems, combat loops, and grinds, if you will, and each character has special abilities, ultimate abilities, skill trees, and different forms of traversal. Both of these games too were or are live service titles or games as a service, where there would be daily and weekly challenges to do, and Avengers did have microtransactions when it was sort of available for purchase, and now has all of its microtransactions available for free for those of you who sort of own the game, and Suicide Squad still has the microtransactions. But there are some differences, and let's crack on with that. Firstly, Suicide Squad is a open world 4-player co-op game where you and 3 other mates can roam the city, you can do simple escort missions, you can defeat enemies that will give you a form of currency and reputation, there are puzzles to do, Easter eggs to find, what you'd expect from a open world sandbox game, and shit, that's kind of what makes Suicide Squad a bit fun to play in some of its instances. Now, the base game of Suicide Squad has 4 heroes, Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark, and Boomerang, with DLC heroes such as the Joker, Agenda Ben, Mr. Freeze, Deadshot's daughter, and Deathstroke, who, if you ask me, should have flat out been in place instead of Deadshot. But each hero has their own unique mode of traversal. King Shark is jumping and leaping through the air, Deadshot has a stolen jetpack, Harley Quinn zips around the city with a remote drone and a sort of grappling gun, if you will, that she has stolen from some Batman tech, and Captain Boomerang has a Speed Force infused boomerang, giving him sort of a short-range teleport ability, and credit to where credit is due, traversal here is super fun.
I could see eating this. I really could, and I am not kidding.
Combat-wise though, Suicide Squad is a third-person looter-shooter, a little bit like, say, The Division, but with an open world, free-flowing traversal. Now, each character has a select option when it comes to weapons, such as shotguns for Captain Boomerang, pistols for Harley, snipers and assault rifles for Deadshot, and heavy weapons like a minigun for King Shark, but each character too also has melee options or close-range weapons too. Boomerang throws, well, what do you think? Harley Quinn has a baseball bat, King Shark has a Maui-like hook weapon, and Deadshot uses his wrist-mounted guns when things get a little bit too close. Now, depending on what character you select to determines the gameplay style. Shark is a bit of a tank-like character, leaping into combat, having a larger health pool. Deadshot is really good at staying back and popping off enemies with longer range weapons. Harley is a bit of a brawler, but she's agile, and Boomerang is run in, deal some damage, get out of there quickly. A little bit like, say, Tracer from Overwatch, get in, cause chaos, get out. And each character does feel unique, and there's definitely sort of a playstyle for everyone.
That's good.
Now, before Suicide Squad released though, I thought I'd be running around as Deadshot for the campaign, but surprisingly, I found Captain Boomerang was my favourite just because his traversal was more fun, and his combat style surprisingly worked for me. And each hero too in Suicide Squad has ultimate abilities, such as Captain Boomerang zipping around an area dealing damage to everyone, and it's kinda cool to use, sure. Now, it is worth noting though, I have not tried Joker, Freeze, Deadshot's daughter, or Deathstroke, and I'll get back to why that is a bit later on. But the general variety too of missions in Suicide Squad is escort vehicles, save civilians, destroy large enemy cannons or outposts, or defeat enemies in a certain area within a certain period of time, and you repeat these missions too throughout the story campaign in Suicide Squad as well. And once you get into the endgame, all of these missions are repeated over and over for a form of currency or reputation that will let you then face off against another version of Brainiac. So the gameplay is grind missions to face off against Brainiac, then rinse and repeat.
That's bad.
Enemies too will drop weapons and gear options to pick up. There are as well Riddler challenges scattered throughout the city, sort of like what we got in the previous Arkham games, and the endgame after the story, Metropolis does start to alter and change depending on what's happening in the world, such as say sandstorms with Brainiac terraforming Metropolis. The exact same thing though can be said for Avengers, which while it does have unique and fun heroes to play as, it does fail as hard as Robbie Williams' Better Man movie at the box office.
Oh no! Oh no!
And some of the decisions made for its gameplay are really damn questionable. Avengers though is a third-person button bash, somewhat shooter depending on your hero. If you say play as Black Widow or the DLC hero Winter Soldier, your range attack is basically a pistol or an assault rifle, sort of making the game into a bit of a third-person shooter in some instances. But mainly, Avengers is a third-person hero action game where you and 3 other mates will play as one of the 6 available Avengers in the base game, with Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, and Miss Marvel.
Can I come too?
Now, just like Suicide Squad, each hero has special abilities, ultimate attacks, a unique mode of traversal, close and long range attacks as well. And when it comes to combat, each hero has a standard melee attack, which depending on your hero, that might be something like say swinging Mjolnir or bashing someone with your fists. And then you've got a heavy attack, which will start to change up the gameplay a little bit, where Iron Man will start shooting enemies in a close range radius, or Hulk will just put more strength into his swings. Now, each character as well has a form of ranged attack that can be aimed and fired. Captain America will throw his shield, Black Widow will use her pistols, Miss Marvel will actually stretch out her arms and punch people, and the Hulk will actually pick up a piece of the ground underneath him and throw it. Then there's amplified or more powerful abilities that aren't overly like a special use move. By holding down the right trigger if you're using a controller, Thor will use the Thor Force, putting lightning into his attacks. Miss Marvel will make her fists more bigger and sort of deal more damage. Captain America will then block damage with his right trigger ability with his shield, and after he blocks damage, it gives him a temporary buff. And Iron Man will use his repulsors, but he can also fire rockets and lasers from his arms too. What Avengers gets right, I will say, compared to Suicide Squad with its combat system, is each character serves a specific purpose. If you want to play a fast defensive tank, go with Captain America. If you want a damage tank, then you go with the Hulk. If you want ranged weapons, then you want Iron Man. And if you want someone who's quick and nimble in combat, then there's Black Widow. Now, some of the combat mechanics too for Avengers, to this day, I will still admit, are quite fun. Iron Man is your range specialist, with his special attacks being a powerful uni-beam from his chest. His support or buff ability will overcharge his arc reactor, giving him sort of a unlimited energy to fire his weapons, as Iron Man can actually run out of juice and you need to charge it by either waiting or by doing melee combat.
Excuse me, bad guys. I am running out of air. Gotta get pumped.
And his ultimate is either calling down the Hulkbuster either for himself or for others to use, which is pretty cool. But Iron Man's weakness is that if he's flying around, and he can fly around for as long as he wants, and providing some air support, he is a bit exposed in the air, and there are enemies that can stun and shoot him, sending him to the ground, which I thought is kinda cool. The Hulk's range attack is throwing the ground underneath him, and it is a slow animation, and Captain America is relatively close when it comes to combat, as enemies that are further away, you sort of need to get close to them. By far though, the funnest character to play, at least in my opinion, and is well my favourite Avenger as well, is Thor. His combat is basically Kratos from the new God of War games. His ranged attack is throwing Mjolnir, which you can use to pin enemies to walls or floors, and the hammer will stay there until you call it back. And the sound effect of the hammer being thrown and returning to you is really damn satisfying.
Hang on, those guns are shield issue. I'll get Commander Hill on the line.
That looks entertaining. Oh, yeah.
And anytime I faced off, say, against a more tougher enemy that required my attention, but they had sort of lower level goons around them, I'd pin the boss down with Mjolnir, take out the goons, then focus on the boss, and it was pretty damn fun. Unlike Suicide Squad though, I returned to Avengers for all of its story DLC with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, who, let's be real, they're both kind of the same person when it comes to gameplay, and Black Panther, as Winter Soldier and Jane Foster Thor didn't really have story DLC, they were kind of just dropped randomly into the game. But going back to similarities, both Suicide Squad and Avengers have a loot system. They've got repetitive missions, where in the Avengers you need to capture a shield base, or save some Inhumans, and in Suicide Squad you need to save civilians or destroy an enemy cannon. There is a loot system here, but I think Suicide Squad does it better. Now in Avengers you'll say find a new grip for Mjolnir, or better helmets if you will for Iron Man, but equipping this loot doesn't physically change your hero at all, it just alters their stats. Where in Suicide Squad, the loot you find is weapons, not clothing items, and changing your weapons physically changes on your character model, sort of like, you know, what you'd expect in Destiny or The Division, as outfit and gear in Suicide Squad are two separate things.
Well, duh.
But where Avengers fails, and fails really, really, really damn hard, is outside of its combat when you're doing missions. Now, you'll select what mission you want to do from a simple boss fight mission where you have to say take on Taskmaster again, or you'll do a sort of a companion mission if you will for Hulk or Thor, and by completing these missions you will unlock new cosmetic outfits which are kinda cool. But you'll select your missions on the helicarrier or inside a hidden shield base or Ant-Man's Inhuman base, basically these like little social hubs if you will that act like the Earth on Destiny, but you won't see other players roaming around, and they'll just have vendors and sort of missions to choose from. But anyways, back to the world and the game, it is like Destiny because it has different biomes, like a forest, a desert, a small fraction of New York City, Wakanda in the DLC, and so on, and these act as tiny, tiny sandboxes to explore.
Why?
Now, I'm sorry, but whoever decided on having small biomes to explore rather than just a simple open city, that has got to be one of the reasons why this game did not succeed. But you'll select a mission on your helicarrier or in your Quinjet if you want to do it that way, and you can explore that biome if you want, but you'll do say a 20 odd minute mission maybe defeat a boss fight, and then the Quinjet will come and pick you up and take you back to the helicarrier, or you can select another mission. In Suicide Squad, on the other hand, your mission might be, say, picked up at the Hall of Justice, which Amanda Waller has turned into her base of operations for the squad, and going out into the city, doing the mission, and returning is half the fun of Suicide Squad, as you might race your friend back to the Hall of Justice, you might do some small side missions, or just randomly explore the world. In Avengers though, you can't do this, and what I found super weird for Avengers as well, outside of having biomes instead of an open world, is that every character in this game traverses the world at the same speed.
What the fuck did I just hear?
Now, each character has a way of getting around. Iron Man and Thor fly, the Hulk leaps through the air, Captain America, Miss Marvel, and Black Widow run, and Miss Marvel and Black Widow have a bit of a grappling sort of zipline system, if you will, where Captain America can do sort of a double jump to get around. But Iron Man flies as fast as Captain America can run. Hulk leaps through the air as quick as Black Widow running, and basically she sort of web swings around off lampposts, if you will, and it ruins the game. Now, I'd say it'd make more sense for this game that if it had roles, as playing as the Avengers for each character has relevant strengths and weaknesses. If you were, say, rushing forward as Iron Man and Hulk moves a hell of a lot slower because he is a large tank-like character, then it would be more dangerous as Iron Man because he'll be the sole target for all enemies in an area. So it's like, yeah, as Iron Man, you are fast, your health isn't great, but without a tank character or any support characters in the area, you will get the shit kicked out of you, so you need to move forward and prepare your attacks as a team. And the fact that Captain America can run as fast as Thor, flying through the air being pulled by his hammer...
Oh my god, the hammer pulled you off!
Yeah, that's weird. But not having an open world for an Avengers title after the release of not only Insomniac's Spider-Man game, but titles like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead, where people just return to these games so they can roam the world for fun, is beyond me. What even makes less sense is back in 2013 we had LEGO Marvel Superheroes, which I think is actually one of the best Marvel games and sort of greatest LEGO games of all time as well, but in that game it was set in New York on the island of Manhattan, where your base of operations was a helicarrier up in the sky, where you would select your missions and flying characters could just shoot up and fly away, and characters who couldn't fly would use vehicles. And if they made that game but removed LEGO and just sort of gave it the graphics and styling and skins, if you will, of Marvel's Avengers or Suicide Squad or any kind of superhero game, that would be brilliant. Anyways, I'm getting on a tangent, but the combat in Avengers is great, but everything surrounding it is a mess. Yes, it is still fun to play as Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, but everything around is boring, painfully boring, like having to go to multiple biomes, having to party up in lobbies for games, having a gameplay loop that once you've leveled up your character enough and buffed up their skills in the skill tree, you can then replay the same mission again, just on a harder difficulty. And yeah, Suicide Squad is the same in that it has repetitive gameplay, but Avengers felt kind of draining.
I promise I'll do what you say.
Where Suicide Squad is just a simple open world, the combat in Suicide Squad is serviceable. Sure, it is a little weird playing as Captain Boomerang using a shotgun or King Shark using a minigun, but the traversal is unique. Each character somewhat has a purpose, and each character moves and traverses the world at a different speed, for Christ's sake. And the loot system isn't this random stat stacking crap with no physical change to your hero. While both games suffer from their own problems, sure, you can make a bit of your own fun in Suicide Squad. You can explore, you can do races, you can do the Riddler challenges, and if you're playing with friends, I think you'll enjoy it more. Where Avengers, yeah, it had really good combat, but after say 10, 20 minutes or maybe 2 missions, you're about done for the day. So with that, I'll say the better gameplay was Suicide Squad. Alright, so when it comes to world, and I'm not talking about how Avengers has biomes and Suicide Squad is an open world, but I'm talking about the setting and the world that the game is based in. Suicide Squad takes place in an existing pre-loved universe in the Arkhamverse, where we have played as Batman on 4 separate occasions in the Arkham trilogy and Arkham Origins, which is a pretty damn fun game, but that Mr. Freeze DLC was a massive letdown. Anyways, Avengers though doesn't take place in a pre-existing world. We, as the players, have no pre-existing connection to characters, where in Suicide Squad, we do. And this one, you can guess, will be pretty damn short, and you can probably guess who's gonna win this round, but anyways, it's the Avengers.
I am shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
The game starts off with the Avengers already as a formed group, starting up their second home in San Francisco, which, if I'm honest, I thought this game might take place in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe, as Spider-Man mentions that the Avengers are on the West Coast during the events of his game.
Avengers Tower is so cool, but they're never around to use it. I think they're probably somewhere on the West Coast right now.
But anyways, the Avengers exist and disband, and they stay disbanded for 5 years, and the main story, multiplayer and story DLC is about the Avengers coming back together, facing off against AIM, then getting involved with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and his future and story kind of thing. Then there's Black Panther, and I somewhat enjoyed returning to Avengers, where Suicide Squad was set in a well-loved universe, and after the brilliant game that was Arkham Knight, we get to see the Suicide Squad and Batman return after he fakes his death at the end of Arkham Knight. We get answers as to why Superman and the League didn't appear or were mentioned in the previous Arkham games, and we get the Arkham universe back, only for us to have to, quote, kill the Justice League, and the writing, acting, and, well, we fucking kill Batman, and yes, we know it's not the real Batman, but for a good year, the fans had to fight against sort of, well, a shitty kaiju fight for Batman, but Harley Quinn has a monologue. We shoot Batman in the face, and it acted as a giant disgrace to the character of Batman and to the games that came before it.
It's true, but he shouldn't say it.
Now though, well, Rocksteady have finished with Suicide Squad and released the final DLC. A DLC I didn't play at all, but I sure as shit watched all of the cutscenes and kept up to date with what was going on in its story, and if you can call it cutscenes, but the last one is a slideshow sort of presentation, if you will, showing that the League members are alive and how Superman and Batman are alive. They beat up Brainiac, and to atone for what they've done, well, the League didn't do anything, they were all cloned, but the League decide that they want to go to other universes to save them from Brainiac, and the Suicide Squad get away from Amanda Waller. Now, sure, it does try to save and undo the damage done in the main story, and I will give credit where credit is due. Rocksteady might be trying to sort of save face and sort of bring their universe back a little bit if they can, but unfortunately, from your main story, the damage has already been done.
It's just a little slimy. It's still good. It's still good.
Suicide Squad being set in a well-loved universe and set as a bit of a spin-off sequel, if you will, to the best comic book video game series ever made, it kind of spits on what came before it. The story in Suicide Squad, the core main story, did some damage, and the DLC doesn't really try to save it from that. And yeah, there was data mining to show that the League wasn't really dead, but the wrap-up of this game's world and events was like treating it like a dream sequence, like it never really happened. The only thing that overtly changed in the Arkham universe was, well, Wonder Woman is actually dead, but the rest of the League are alive.
What the fuck happened? Hey!
To simply put it though, Suicide Squad should have been set maybe in a separate universe or world, and Avengers told a really good story in a world that required no pre-existing knowledge to understand what was going on. And for that, I'll say Avengers wins. This one's a pretty easy one too, but one game graphically looks really damn good. Now sure, it is 4 years newer to the other, but Suicide Squad is actually a pretty damn good looking game for a few reasons. Now, firstly, the world and character designs of Suicide Squad are bright, vibrant, and characters pop on the screen. Now, sure, Batman's suit in Suicide Squad is kind of a repeat with no creative flair, if you ask me, but Green Lantern and Superman in this game look fucking fantastic. The squad as well, their outfits, their character models, hell, the city of Metropolis visually looks great here. But Avengers, well, it had to have its character models redesigned after their first reveal because, well...
One's initiated the security protocols. The Chimera's autopilot has taken over.
You'll need backup. We're heading back.
Negative. Secure. Obviously, we're gonna let you catch up.
Anyways though, their faces now have been changed and they look fine, a little bit like how they updated that Sonic movie a few years ago, but yeah, but the standard story outfits for the Avengers 2, they're kinda crap. The Hulk as well, the Hulk, there's nothing you can really do or complain about there, but Black Widow's outfit looks like it was kinda ordered from Temu, Iron Man's outfit is kinda too bland, like it was trying to be iconic, but it ended up being a bit lifeless. Now, Thor's outfit, while it looked like a Viking-styled outfit, which is kind of cool, I kind of like what they did there, the cape, though, looks lifeless. Like, sure, it flows, but it doesn't look like it's made out of any material. It just looks like it's a sheet of red, if that makes sense. Like, it has no texture, it has no feel. It is literally just like paint hanging off a character model. But Captain America's outfit, however, looks the worst if you ask me. The helmet and the shield are fine, but the long striped pouches at the front of his outfit, it kind of looks really weird.
What gives you the right? What's the difference between you and me?
I'm not wearing hockey pads.
But thankfully, there are loads, and I mean loads, of different outfit options to choose from when you're playing this game, and as the game is no longer supported and it's no longer for traditional sale, all of the skins were given to players for free. And there are a heap of MCU skins to use, and a heap of comic book and creative skins as well, but the outfits designed for your main campaign, your poster boy Avenger outfits to advertise the game, look pretty crappy if you ask me. But if you say equip the unworthy Thor outfit for the game, which is my favourite interpretation of Thor, the cape's details and graphics look great. But if I pick the more traditional outfit with the helmet and that scale armor, the cape looks back to being flat, red, no texture. It's really weird. It's like they put effort into armors that they liked rather than giving all of them decent attention, and there are a fuckload of costumes in this game. But the environments and graphics in the world for Avengers 2, it's pretty average and kinda rushed. Now, I mentioned the hub world, but there is sort of hub areas in Wakanda where you can explore and go to the vendors and stuff like that, but if you look at the buildings outside of the hub world, sort of looking out over Wakanda, they look like they belong in an early PlayStation 3 game or a late PlayStation 2 game.
Oh my god, it's bad.
But the costumes and character designs added to the game post-launch with its MCU outfits, for example, like if we look at this Iron Man outfit, it looks awesome on screen, especially with all the reflections. It's just, as you sort of look at the environment away from sort of its first impressions, that's where it sort of starts to break down a little bit. But Avengers has some cool moments, like at the start of the single-player campaign when you're hiding from aimbots, and you're in the sewers and you can see the dirt and grime on Kamala's clothes, or when you're going through lush forests as the Hulk in sort of that second or third mission of the main game. But Suicide Squad has decent graphics across the board. The world looks good, the character models, the designs in heroes' outfits, and in some instances, the gore. It all looks pretty good. So it sort of comes as no surprise that Suicide Squad has the better graphics. This one, it's not a hard one to decide on the winner, but credit needs to be given where it's due. Avengers does a pretty damn good job with its heroes, making them iconic, comedic, emotional when they need to be. And Bruce Banner and Tony Stark arguing in the early stages of the campaign, or the Hulk and Iron Man fighting each other as the team starts to crumble towards the end of the second act, all works due to the voice acting and how the characters are portrayed.
Odin's beard. About as intimidating as the man himself, hmm?
Oh, you're funny.
Yes, I am.
Suicide Squad, well, before I get into it, credit where credit is due. At the start of the game, when you're in the Hall of Justice and you see the holograms of the Justice League, it is pretty damn cool. Green Lantern, Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman are exactly what they need to be. They are inspiring, heroic, man, they're the fucking Justice League. But Kevin Conroy as Batman for one of the last times, and man, it still kind of hurts hearing his voice sometimes, but hearing Batman when he's a hologram at the start of the game, or audio tapes that you can find, or when we're in the Metropolis Batcave and there is a hologram audio tape of Batman, it hits, and it hits fucking hard.
The family you choose. Together, you'll be formidable. That's something you taught me, son.
What are you doing? You're crying? No!
But what also works in a horrifyingly way is the evil Brainiac Batman. Being a member of the Suicide Squad and being hunted by Batman in the first act of the game is legit like being on the receiving end of Predator gameplay from the Arkham games before it, and it works so damn well. Later on in the game, we can find a enemy radio and we can hear Batman giving orders and updates about the Justice League to Brainiac, or the rest of the League are getting updates, and you can hear how evil Batman is, and it's horrifying.
Boomerangs has melee weapons. Harkness has one skill.
And as a sidebar, sort of during the second act of the game, if you will, you can actually find and see Batman watching the squad and learning their techniques, hiding out on the rooftops, and it's a little cool Easter egg as well.
He's freaking gone.
Having said that though, how the team at Rocksteady handled pre-existing characters like Batman and Harley Quinn, and even to some extent Deadshot, was nothing short of sort of pathetic.
It's pathetic.
It starts off when we killed the Flash, or at least who we thought was the original Flash before the retconning, and once we kill the Flash, many people who love the Flash and that's their favourite hero, Captain Boomerang fucking pisses on him.
We'll show proper respect to this fallen hero by...
Show a little class, man. Holy shit. Congratulations.
Makes sense. The gods have cursed you in every other way.
You know in that one scene in The Wizard of Oz when the flying monkeys pull apart the scarecrow? That's what it was like.
Oh.
After that though, we take on the Green Lantern, my personal favourite DC hero. Well, Hal Jordan is my favourite, but I know a fair bit about the Green Lantern. And we end up using miniaturized Sinestro power core batteries as charms. You know, there's little flare items that you can put on your weapons in like Rainbow Six Siege. Yeah, a charm goes onto our gun, and for some reason, we can shoot and kill a Green Lantern.
I hate it here. I want to come home.
Instead of giving us sort of a Sinestro Core character that we can use in the campaign, or having to equip a Sinestro Core ring, then create light construct weapons giving us a new mechanic that we have to learn and master. No, we equip a charm and we kill the Green Lantern. Then, for King Shark to take the Green Lantern ring, put it on his pinky finger, and then summon a giant green shark. Now again, it's not the real Green Lantern, but when this released, it wasn't a known fact. But Green Lantern rings as well, they don't work like that. Like at all.
That wasn't fun. That's not an experience I'm gonna look back upon.
Our boss fight against Batman though is kind of embarrassing. Our first interaction with him is great because, well, it feels like we're actually going up against Batman. But for his actual boss fight to be Batman using Scarecrow's fear toxin, yeah, that's actually kinda cool. But it's literally just a walking simulator before it turns into a kaiju fight.
Here we go.
Now, if you asked me a couple of years ago that we're playing as the Suicide Squad and we have to fight Batman, what do you envision that boss fight to look like? My answer would not be a kaiju fight against Batman.
Oh, no.
Anyways though, we beat Batman by shooting a giant kaiju version of him, and to call out Superman, we put a defeated Batman in a public park and publicly execute him, which Harley gives a pointless monologue about. Now, rather than killing Batman, getting revenge on how Batman killed the Joker, or how Harley believes how Batman killed the Joker, no, she doesn't mention any of this. She says sort of nothing of importance, if you will, and shoots him. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but in Arkham Knight, Harley Quinn was still mourning over the loss of the Joker and wanted to kill Batman for it, so that should sort of be some motivation here.
That would have made a lot more sense.
But this causes Superman to come out, and we kill the most iconic superhero with gold kryptonite. Now, yeah, I'm getting heated here, I'm talking with my hands, but that's not how gold kryptonite works. And yeah, the answer to that is, well, it's a clone, not the real Superman. But again, when this game released, this was Superman. Avengers, on the other hand, it's in a separate universe, away from Spider-Man, not in the MCU, not part of any existing world or universe. On top of that, the Avengers game doesn't shit on the legacy, the lore, the story, or morals of its characters. The writers in the Avengers game did their homework with not only how these characters are written, but how the voice acting is pretty damn solid across the board.
You are very wise for one so young.
The Avengers react in the prologue during the events of A-Day, and it feels like it's pulled straight from the pages of a comic, but there is also echoes of the MCU in their dialogue and actions, so it feels familiar.
You waiting? Yeah, obviously. We're gonna let you catch up.
If anything though, I'll say the DLC characters for Avengers that were a bit of a letdown in some instances. Now, we got 5 heroes before the game wrapped up. Kate Bishop and Hawkeye, which, sorry, they are kind of the same character. Black Panther was a standout character, and he was completely sort of new in regards to his gameplay and mechanics, and he's voiced by Kratos, which is pretty cool. But Hawkeye and Kate Bishop were new characters, Black Panther was new, but then we got Jane Foster Thor, which was most likely released due to sort of Thor Love and Thunder, and it was just a female Thor, there was no real gameplay changes. And then we got the Winter Soldier, who was pretty much a male version of Black Widow, even with an ability to go invisible, just like Black Widow can as well in this game. And you can see the name of the buff, and the devs kinda just gave up on it.
What the hell is even that?
Now, it could have been really cool to play as Doctor Strange to introduce a completely different gameplay style. If we say had Ant-Man, whose ability was to shrink enemies or grow allies, or to shrink himself to deal more damage, or to grow himself to do more area of effect damage. Just some more characters that didn't feel like a gender swap of pre-existing characters that are already in the game. Like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop were new and refreshing, but they are the same character. But Black Panther is standalone and he feels rad to play as. But comes as no surprise, the winner here is Avengers. Alright, so, well, I said I'd do the same criteria as Gotham Knights vs Suicide Squad, and well, look, both of these games have no shelf life. Suicide Squad is finished. There is no more DLC coming for that game. It is now a closed book. Avengers, on the other hand, is completed too. No new DLC coming to that, but it's also a game that has been delisted from Steam and online stores. Now you can get a physical copy of the game, and maybe there are copies that you can get from key resellers, but the game is dead.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So I decided to take a look at which game has more players on Steam, and seeing as one game is no longer available for purchase, it comes as no surprise that Suicide Squad has more players. So I mean, I guess Suicide Squad has the better shelf life?
Yeah!
But maybe then, let's take a look at how the games ended with its campaigns and story, and how it had players return to their relevant games.
But you can't do this to me.
Well, Suicide Squad's story didn't end traditionally. You killed a Brainiac, but you were given a task to then take out every variant and alternate version universe of Brainiac. And from that, you were basically told to return to the game with each new DLC to take on a Brainiac, and then you'd unlock a new hero or villain to play as.
But wait! There's more!
As I mentioned earlier though, I didn't return to Suicide Squad after its main campaign was finished. Actually, I lie. I returned to try out the Joker, as apparently his traversal is really damn fun. However, to unlock him you have to either grind for a few hours, or you spend real world money to unlock him immediately.
You are a fucking star, aren't you?
The characters should have dropped immediately. Do a mission where you save them, get the new hero, then naturally, as you have the new character, that should make you want to play for a few hours.
No shit.
Avengers, on the other hand, 3 out of the 5 DLC characters had proper story DLC missions, with sort of little mini arcs that would take maybe 3 to 4 hours to play through and finish, and you unlocked the hero nearly immediately when you started these DLCs, and every time Avengers announced a new hero, I would re-download the game and try out these new heroes. Suicide Squad had 4 DLCs with 2 episodes per season, but the game was more or less the same in that you'd take on a Brainiac, get a new character, wait for the new DLC to drop, where Avengers on the other hand had separate independent stories. Kate Bishop and Hawkeye's story was all about basically the Old Man Logan story, but it's Old Man Hawkeye, and we need to prevent that future from happening. Black Panther story was pretty damn cool, and it gives us a new world, new enemies, and a new boss fight with Claw, and that boss fight is a bit weird, but it's still something new. But if we look at the life of each game, Avengers lasted longer. Suicide Squad only last 1 year until Rocksteady finished with it.
Just to be safe, we better pull the plug. Yoink!
And Avengers had DLC paced out, and yes, it is no longer supported or overly available. I think in that instance, the winner would still be Avengers. Now, it's not new information, but both Suicide Squad and Avengers weren't well received games. Suicide Squad, dude, I had high hopes for it and I was giving it the benefit of the doubt, where Avengers, I hoped it sort of had a Destiny 2 situation, or that if we got a sequel where that game would have been something that every comic book fan would have wanted, a open world Avengers game. And I don't think Rocksteady or Crystal Dynamics set out to make a bad game. I think these devs put their heart and soul into this game, but it just would have been the corporate executive saying, we want to do this because it will make us more money.
Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money.
The writing though for Suicide Squad was more hit than miss, and rather than having us as the Suicide Squad though take out the Justice League, we could have taken on the Crime Syndicate, who are basically the evil alternate universe version of the Justice League, where we work with or save the League as we progress in the story. Like if you want to kill Superman, that's fine. You can do the same thing with Ultraman and save Superman at the same time. Like that would kind of work.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's not a bad idea.
The hub world for Avengers wasn't a great idea, where instead we could have gotten a open world San Francisco where we play as the Avengers, a game where if you want to do a power trip fantasy exploring a open world San Francisco as Thor and drop in on random players to help them out, where you need to coordinate with your fellow Avengers on how to move together as a team. How, if the Hulk is slow and you can see heavy enemies, that you should wait for his backup. And where maybe characters like Captain America and Black Widow could use motorbikes or the Quinjet in an attempt to sort of keep up with the faster characters. You know what though? If you merge the open world aspect of Suicide Squad with Metropolis coming under attack from Brainiac, you make that San Francisco in this instance, but you replace Brainiac with Loki, Red Skull, or even Ultron, and for future DLCs, you tease Thanos, Doctor Doom, or set up a Civil War storyline. You could even introduce some friendly PvP with that. If Avengers and Suicide Squad merged together, you would have a pretty damn cool Avengers game, I'd like to think, and that's kind of what I'm low-key hoping for in the future. Now what I'll do is I'll boot up Spider-Man just to swing around New York for fun. I'll boot up Days Gone here and there to try and get my motorbike fix, as Mrs. Dudi won't let me get a motorbike. And I still boot up Avengers here and there to fly around as Iron Man or to throw Mjolnir around, and hearing that metallic clang of Captain America's shield bounce off walls and enemies is pretty damn cool. But both Avengers and Suicide Squad released poor reviews from critics and fans. There are people out there though that enjoy these games, and dude, if you sitting there at home watching on your phone, on your TV, at work, wherever you are, if you enjoyed these games, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You enjoy what you want to enjoy. I just don't think though that Rocksteady or Crystal Dynamics set out to make poorly received games. The team at Rocksteady set out to make a sequel in the Arkham universe, and hopefully they take the experiences that they got from Suicide Squad and put that into their next project, which is rumoured to be another Batman game. Crystal Dynamics made a pretty good single-player experience with Avengers and its story, and while the live service model and biomes for the game was a letdown, they nailed the combat and feel for each character. And if there's ever a chance where Crystal Dynamics can return to the Marvel license and make another Avengers game, I think they've got a solid foundation for character gameplay, as playing as the Avengers are quite fun. But my question to anyone who did check out this video, or who lasted this long, is what would you prefer? Another game set in the Arkham universe set after the events of Suicide Squad, where we found out that the League is alive, maybe a Batman Beyond game where we play as old man Bruce Wayne at the start, then we teach Terry McGinnis how to be Batman, or would you like to see Crystal Dynamics have another crack at Avengers? Either way, let me know down in the comments below. But whether you prefer Earth's mightiest heroes in the Avengers or the world's greatest superheroes in the Justice League, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.